The Forbidden Tongue. The sky above was not Earth. The stars were too bright, the colors too sharp, the air too thin. Daniel Cross, a young human linguist from Earth, woke up coughing on hard sand. His last memory was of the transport pod shaking. Something had gone wrong. The coordinates scrambled. Now, he was here. Wherever here was. He stood up slowly, brushing dirt from his uniform. A broken helmet lay nearby. His translator chip still blinked green. That was good. But everything else was not. There were no buildings, no people, only giant black rock spires stretching across the red desert. Then he heard it. Footsteps. Fast. Heavy. He turned and saw them. Aliens. Tall. Armored. Horned. They weren't human. They surrounded him with strange weapons drawn. One of them barked. In a harsh, sharp language he didn't understand. Daniel raised his hands. I mean no harm. My ship crashed. They didn't respond. Instead, they pointed a weapon at him. Wait, he said. I'm just a linguist. They didn't understand. A word, and then a female voice echoed from behind the guards, stand down. Everyone froze. A figure stepped forward, dressed in a dark robe with a silver crest on her chest. She was tall. Her skin was pale gold, her eyes glowing violet, and she was beautiful. Princess Arvale. She walked toward Daniel slowly, like someone approaching a dangerous animal. She looked into his eyes. Then she said something. It sounded ancient, soft, like wind whispering through trees. Daniel blinked, and to everyone's shock, he replied, not in English, but in the same language. I understand you, he said. The guards raised their weapons again. Gasps echoed around them. Arvale stepped back, eyes wide. You speak the language of our ancestors? Daniel looked confused. I don't know. It's an old dialect. I studied it back home. We called it Proto-Galactic Root. The guards were now shouting in panic. One of them shouted, It is forbidden. But Arvale raised her hand. Silence, she commanded. Her eyes never left Daniel. How can a human speak a dead tongue? No one has heard it in 3,000 cycles. Daniel's heart raced. I don't know. I studied it from a crashed archive file. I thought it was just an old language, why not real? Now it was Arvale who looked afraid, but not of him, of what he represented. You must come with me, she said firmly. Now. They placed him in a strange hover prison. The guards didn't speak to him, but Arvale watched from a distance, her eyes unreadable. Inside the city walls, Daniel saw towers made of silver stone, floating bridges, strange creatures walking in peace. But the people looked at him like he was cursed. One child whispered, The voice has returned. They brought him into a large hall, the Royal Archive. It was quiet, dusty, sacred. Arvale walked beside him. You should not be here, she said. That language, it belongs to the dead. Daniel looked at the stone walls. They were covered in glowing carvings, ancient symbols. He raised his hand and touched one. The room suddenly glowed bright. The carvings pulsed. The air grew warm. The walls began to sing. Arvale gasped. The guards dropped to their knees. Impossible, she whispered. Daniel stepped back, afraid. What's happening? You woke it, she said. Only those of the bloodline could do that, and they've been extinct for centuries. Suddenly, old legends began to rise again. A human had spoken a forgotten tongue, a dead language, known only to the ancestors, the language of light, and now it had answered him. Arvale stood in silence, watching Daniel as the carvings continued to hum. Then she whispered, You are not here by accident. You are the prophecy we were taught to fear, chosen by echoes. The room had stopped glowing, but the silence left behind felt heavier than sound. Daniel Cross stood frozen in the ancient archive chamber, the symbols on the wall now dim but still warm under his fingers. Across from him, Princess Arvale was staring, not with anger, not even with fear, but with something deeper. Recognition. They left the hall in silence. Outside, the city was no longer calm. Crowds had gathered. Whispers filled the air. The voice has returned. He touched the stone, but he's not one of us. Guards surrounded Daniel tighter than before. He wasn't a guest anymore. He was something else. That night Arvale summoned him, not to a throne room, but to a quiet garden hidden beneath her family's temple. The trees there glowed a soft blue. The wind smelled like old rain and fresh stone. She didn't wear her crown, just a soft robe and tired eyes. Daniel sat across from her. He had questions. She did too, but she spoke first. 3,000 years ago our ancestors left this world. They vanished, left behind only words carved in stone. She looked toward the stars. The prophecy said a stranger would return, not by blood, but by voice. Daniel frowned. I'm not a prophet. No, she said. But the temple heard you. She led him into a smaller chamber, a sealed door, covered in ancient writing. This door hasn't opened in centuries, she said. No one has been able to read the full inscription. Daniel stepped closer. The symbols glowed faintly as he approached. He tilted his head, whispering the words like a song he barely remembered. The one who echoes the past shall unlock the path to the future. A low hum echoed through the ground. The door opened. Behind it was a single room, and at its center, a floating stone tablet, surrounded by a soft red aura. Daniel stepped forward. His body trembled. He didn't know why, but it felt familiar, as if his voice had once lived here long ago. He touched the edge. Images exploded into his mind. A war, a great leaving, two civilizations breaking apart. And then, he saw Earth. Earth, from above. But not the Earth he knew. Much older version, one connected into this very place. He stumbled back, gasping. Arvale caught him. What did you see? She asked. I saw my world, he whispered. Before we were ever human. Her eyes widened. You mean, your people and mine? Daniel nodded slowly. We were one. Once. Later that night, Daniel sat alone in his chamber. He couldn't sleep. He kept hearing the ancient words in his head. His hand still tingled where he'd touched the stone. He had come here by accident. But now, it felt like something had called him. Outside, Arvale met with the High Elders. They were furious. He is dangerous. He is awakening things that must stay buried. He must be silenced. But she raised her voice for the first time in her royal life. He did not steal our language. He remembered it. He is not our enemy. He might be our beginning again. The next morning, Arvale brought Daniel to the edge of the ancient canyon. There, hidden in the rock, was an old temple half swallowed by time. No one has entered since the ancestors disappeared, she said. Daniel stepped forward. The stone, walls pulsed beneath his hand. He spoke one word. The canyon lit up like sunrise. Arvale turned to him, eyes glowing softly. You are the echo, the one who speaks what was lost. Daniel didn't know what to say, so she spoke again, not as a princess but as someone afraid to hope. If you are truly one of them, then you don't belong to Earth anymore. You belong to us, whispers beneath the stone. The wind howled through the canyon temple. Cold, dry, silent. But Daniel Cross didn't feel alone. He stood in the center of a dark chamber. The walls around him were covered in the glowing script of a lost language. One, only he could speak. Beside him, Princess Arvale held a dim light sphere. Her hand trembled slightly, though her voice remained steady. This place was sealed before I was born, before my mother was born. No one alive has seen these markings. Daniel slowly walked forward, fingers brushing across the glowing symbols. But something strange happened. The carvings whispered. Not out loud. Not in sound. In his mind. Soft, layered voices. You are not the first voice, but you may be the last. He stepped back, eyes wide. Arvale turned sharply. What happened? I heard something, he said quietly. They spoke to me in my thoughts, she frowned. The ancients? I don't know, but it felt like they knew me. They continued deeper. The passage grew narrower, colder. The air shifted. Then they found a chamber with a large stone circle in the middle, etched with strange lines and hollow grooves. Daniel knelt beside it. It looked like a star map, but old, incomplete. Arvale stepped beside him, silent. Then she whispered, That symbol, that's not ours. Daniel looked closer, his breath caught. It's from Earth. He reached into his travel bag and pulled out an old research page, a diagram he had studied during his training. Same shape, same pattern. Impossible. How could your people have known this? He asked. Arvale shook her head. I don't know. Our records end at the Great Silence after that. Nothing. Daniel looked at the carvings again. We didn't meet by chance, he said. Something brought me here. Something ancient. Later they sat beside a crystal flame, its blue light flickering gently. For a moment neither of them spoke. Daniel finally broke the silence. Do you believe in fate? Arvale looked up at him. Valerie believe in echoes, that every voice from the past sends ripples into the future. She placed her hand on the ground. Some echoes grow louder, until they become real again. Daniel stared at her fingers. Delicate, golden, strong. Then, what does it mean if I'm the echo? She looked into his eyes. It means you're not just a visitor, you're a piece of what we lost. That night, Daniel dreamed again. The same voices returned, but clearer. He stood in a bright city in the stars, alien towers shining like glass, people speaking both human and Valari words. You are the bridge, a voice said. You are the one who remembers. He turned in the dream and saw her, Arvale, standing beside him. He woke with a jolt, sweat on his neck. The stone carvings on the ceiling of his room glowed faintly. But now, he could read them, every word. The next day he called Arvale. I need to go back into the chamber. She nodded, though worry flashed in her eyes. Together they returned. This time, Daniel didn't hesitate. He placed his hand in the center of the stone circle. It lit up instantly. A hidden platform rose from the floor, and inside it, a crystal cube. Arvale stepped back. What is it? Daniel picked it up carefully. I've seen this in Earth's lost files. We called it a memory core, but no one ever activated one. As he held it, it began to speak, not in sound, but in images, flashing through the room. Valerie's ships landing on ancient Earth, human ancestors welcoming them, a great union, a devastating betrayal. Then silence. Arvale covered her mouth. We were together, once. Daniel nodded, slowly, and someone has tore us apart. The last image burned itself into the air. One voice will rise when the last light fades, and through that voice, the bond shall return. Arvale whispered. They weren't just waiting for someone. They were waiting for you. Daniel looked down at the crystal, then at her. If I was meant to speak for the past, then I want to do it for the future too. She smiled softly, then reached for his hand. Then speak, and I will listen. Trial of the Bloodline. The sky above the temple turned dark, not with clouds, but with silence. Daniel Cross stood at the entrance of the Hall of Judgment. His fingers still tingled from the memory crystal he had unlocked with his voice. Beside him, Princess Arvale looked uneasy. Her usual calm was gone. Even her guards, who once followed her without question, now avoided her gaze. "They've summoned the trial," she said. "No outsider has ever been allowed to stand in it." Daniel looked at the towering structure. Ahead, an ancient arena carved into black stone lit by violet flames. "Why now?" he asked. Arvale's eyes softened. "Because the elders believe you're either a chosen one or a threat." Inside the hall, rows of Valari nobles watched from high platforms. At the center was the Circle of Truth, a wide ring of polished obsidian stone. In its middle stood a glowing symbol, a language rune that pulsed with soft blue light. The High Elder, a towering figure with glowing eyes and braided hair made of metal cords, stepped forward. "Daniel of Earth, you have spoken the forbidden tongue. You have awakened the old voice. Now, you must prove your blood carries the strength to match your speech." Daniel blinked. "My blood?" Arvale stepped forward, voice calm but firm. "He is not Valari by blood but by echo." The crowd murmured. The elder raised a hand. "Then he shall face the trial. Alone." Daniel was handed no weapon, only instructions. 3 lights, 3 gates, 3 tasks. Pass them, and your voice becomes law. Fail, and your voice ends here. The gate behind him shut with a loud boom. The floor lit beneath his feet. The trial had begun. Gate 1. The mind Daniel stepped into a circular room filled with mist. Shapes moved within it, ghosts of the past. Voices called his name in different languages. Suddenly they shouted all at once. "Traitor! Thief! Liar!" The voices overwhelmed him. The mist pulled at his arms, but he closed his eyes, took a breath, and began to speak, in the ancient tongue, one word at a time. Soft, clear. The voices stilled. The mist faded, and the gate opened. Gate 2. The body. The next room was lit by red stone. The ground trembled. A massive guardian, a stone beast, rose from the floor. It charged. Daniel ran, dove, dodged. No weapons, no armor, only instinct. He climbed the broken wall, used his momentum, and leapt, landing on the creature's back. It roared. He didn't fight it with fists. Instead, he shouted again, in the old tongue. The rune on its forehead glowed. The beast paused, then knelt. The gate opened. Gate 3. The heart. The final chamber was cold, empty, except for one thing, a mirror. Daniel walked toward it. At first, he saw himself, but slowly. The reflection changed. He saw himself wearing Valari armor, then leading both human and alien people, then alone, standing over a ruined city. A voice whispered from the walls. "To lead both worlds, you must leave one behind. Which one will you abandon?" Daniel trembled. His Earth, his home, or the world that needed him now. He placed his hand on the mirror and answered softly, "I will leave nothing behind. I will carry both, because I am not either. I am in between." The mirror shattered and the trial ended. Back in the Hall of Judgment, the doors burst open. Daniel stood tall, dust on his face, fire in his eyes. He stepped into the Circle of Truth. The elder watched in silence, then slowly nodded. "He does not speak our blood, but he speaks our truth." The room stayed silent until Arvale stepped forward. She placed her hand over her chest. "Then I claim him, not as a subject, but as my equal." Gasps filled the air. This was no longer about prophecy. This was about choice. And she had made hers. Later that night, Arvale and Daniel stood at the edge of the temple walls. The wind was gentle. Below, torches burned in honor. "You passed," she said quietly. "I spoke," he answered. And they finally listened. She turned to him, eyes soft, voice sincere. You could have walked away. You could have stayed silent. I didn't come here to stay safe, he said. I came here to understand why I was called. Arvale touched his hand. And now, we face the truth together. The betrayal of silence. Daniel Cross was no longer a stranger. He had passed the trial of the bloodline. He had spoken the forgotten words, calmed a stone beast, and survived visions that could break even the strongest. Mind. Now, the people whispered his name with wonder and fear. But in the high hall, the air had changed. Not with joy, but with quiet danger. That morning, Princess Arvale entered the temple archive alone. Her robe was darker than usual, her crown missing. Daniel waited there studying an ancient map carved into the wall. Half Earth, half Valari design. She didn't smile when she approached. He turned to her. Something's wrong. She nodded. They no longer debate your value, Daniel. Now, they debate what to do with you. His jaw tightened. After everything, they're afraid, she said softly. Afraid the past has returned in your voice. Daniel looked down at the glowing rune beneath his hand. Then they should hear the truth. I'm not here to rule, I'm here to restore. But the council did not want restoration. In secret chambers, old leaders whispered. Some called Daniel a gift, others called him a weapon, and one voice, quiet but dangerous, said only one thing. Silence him, before the old power chooses him, completely. That voice belonged to Lord Kyrith, Arvale's cousin, and the next in line if she was removed. That night, while Daniel and Arvale walked the sky bridge over the temple, she told him something that made the stars feel distant. There's a legend that one who speaks the ancient's voice can also awaken their last weapon. Daniel paused. What weapon? A beacon hidden deep under our city, she said. It can open a gate to every world we once touched. Daniel's heart pounded. Including Earth? She nodded slowly. But once awakened, it chooses a keeper, and it obeys only them. Hours later, Daniel returned to his chamber. He found it ransacked. His translation files were missing. His necklace, a small earthstone from his sister, was gone. The doors hadn't been forced open. Only someone with high clearance could have done this, and only one person had that access. Daniel stormed into the Grand Library. He didn't knock. He found Lord Kyrith standing near a console, reviewing something on a glowing data screen. Daniel walked up, voice low. You were in my room. Kyrith didn't turn. You should be honored we even let you walk freely. Daniel clenched his fists. What did you take? Now Kyrith turned, calm, smiling. I took back control. You were never meant to have it. He leaned closer. Your voice is beautiful, human, but too many voices have destroyed empires. Daniel stared, silent. You want to bring back unity, Kyrith whispered. But some of us prefer division, it keeps the throne warm. Later that night, Daniel met Arvale in the old garden. He told her everything. She listened quietly, then looked away, tears in her eyes. I trusted him. I grew up with him. And now, he sees you as a threat to everything he wants. Daniel spoke gently. He's not wrong. I am a threat. Not because I want power, but because I want truth. She reached into her robe and pulled out the missing earthstone necklace. He dropped it in my chambers. I took it back before he knew I saw. Daniel stared at it, a piece of home, still glowing, warm from her hand. He took it gently. Their fingers touched. We have to leave, she whispered, before he finds the beacon first. Together they escaped the palace under moonlight, past the sleeping guards, past the shining towers, into the deep tunnels beneath the temple, where stone turned to silence, and silence led to truth. As they reached the final chamber, Daniel saw a symbol carved into the gate. A circle. 2 lines. a single dot in the center. He gasped. It was the same symbol burned into the earth rock he wore. The beacon had been calling him from the start. He placed the stone against the door. It opened. Light flooded the room, and there it stood. A silver core of pulsing energy, ancient, alive, waiting. Arvale stepped back. The floor trembled. "It's real," she whispered. Daniel walked forward, and as he touched the beacon, it spoke. Keeper recognized. Language verified. Bridge unlocked. Far above, Lord Kyreth felt the tremor and knew. He was already too late. The voice that commands time. The air inside the beacon chamber felt alive. It didn't buzz or hum. It breathed. Daniel Cross stood frozen, hands still glowing after touching the ancient silver beacon. Its light circled around him like a calm storm, whispering in languages long dead, long buried, long feared. Beside him, Arvale stared at the floating energy, as if she were staring into a forgotten god's eyes. "It's older than our oldest myths," she whispered. Daniel stepped back. "And somehow it knows me." The beacon spoke again, not in sound, but directly into his mind. "Your voice unlocked the gate. Your blood carries both beginnings. You are the bridge between what was and what can still be." Daniel grabbed his head, staggering. He saw visions flash inside him, fast, sharp, full of light. A united planet of humans and Valari building cities together, Earth skies with Valari ships above peaceful oceans. Then, betrayal, fire raining, down a broken alliance, and finally, silence. He collapsed to his knees. Arvale rushed forward, catching him. "What did it show you?" His voice trembled. "Everything. We were once one people, one dream. And then, we tore it all apart." The beacon pulsed again. A new message filled the chamber. "The bridge has awakened. Shall we reconnect the stars?" Daniel looked up. The beacon now hovered above a platform, a glowing map spreading in all directions. Lines connected dozens of planets, and at the center, Earth. Arvale touched the map. "This is a gate system. If you activate it, your world will be linked to ours again." Daniel stood up slowly. "Is that what I'm meant to do?" Before she could answer, an alarm blared in the distance. Heavy. Footsteps echoed in the tunnels. Arvale turned sharply. "Kyreth, he's found us." Back above, Lord Kyreth led an elite guard through the catacombs. His voice was cold. "If we don't stop him now, he will rewrite everything. I won't let a human carry the voice of my ancestors." Back inside the beacon chamber, Daniel faced a glowing interface. "Once you activate it," Arvale warned, "there's no going back. It will broadcast across the stars. Every world, yours and mine, will hear the call." Daniel hesitated. He could feel the weight of it all pressing on his chest. "If I do this, my world might come back for war." Arvale nodded. "And mine might reject peace." He looked into her eyes. "But maybe they'll see us together, and they'll realize it's not about who started the past. It's about who chooses the future." Kyreth's guards arrived just as Daniel pressed his palm into the final seal. Light exploded across the room. The map activated. A beam of energy shot upward, through the temple, through the sky, into space. A pulse of sound and light rippled across the stars. Every system that once heard the ancient's voice heard Daniel's. Every forgotten gate lit up. Every distant world paused. On Earth, deep beneath the surface of a forgotten bunker, an old machine blinked. Its screen displayed, "Link established. Language verified." In the beacon chamber, Kyreth screamed, "You've doomed us all." Arvale stepped in front of Daniel, calm but fierce. "No, he gave us a chance. Something you never dared to do." Kyreth raised his weapon, but his guards didn't move. One of them knelt, then another, then the rest. "We serve the voice," one whispered. We follow the echo, said another. Kyreth ran. He vanished into the tunnels. Silence returned. Daniel breathed hard, body shaking. Arvale placed her hand on his chest. It's done, she said. You've spoken for 2 worlds. Daniel smiled faintly. Now we see who listens. Later, standing at the edge of the temple cliffs, they watched the beacon's light rise into the sky. Daniel held Arvale's hand. No words, just understanding. The stars above were no longer silent. They were listening again. He spoke, and the world listened. The sky had changed. Above the temple, the ancient beacon still glowed, sending soft pulses of light into the stars. Each pulse carried a message. Each whisper carried a voice. His voice. Daniel Cross. The outsider, the echo, the one who remembered. Across the galaxy, ancient gate systems awakened. Dead languages flickered on old screens. Forgotten machines blinked to life for the first time in centuries. Some feared it. Some dropped to their knees in wonder. But all of them listened. Inside the great temple hall, Daniel stood before the gathered leaders of both Earth and Valerie. Yes, Earth had responded. A ship had arrived from deep space. Scientists, diplomats, soldiers. They came not in war, but in disbelief. And with questions. How is he speaking their language? Why do their symbols match ours? Is this who we used to be? Arvale stood at Daniel's side, her voice calm and proud. You didn't just come from Earth. You came from our past. And now you've returned to show us a future we stopped believing in. Daniel stepped forward, not as a hero, not as a king, but as a voice. He looked at both sides, the humans confused by ancient words, the Valari torn between tradition and truth. And then he spoke. We were one people once. Before the silence, our worlds were sisters, our voices shared, fear broke us, time erased us, but now we have the chance to choose again. There was silence. Then from the Earth side, a woman stepped forward, older, a linguist. She carried an old book with her, battered, torn, and full of unknown symbols. She opened it. Daniel's heart froze. The pages were covered in the same language as the temple walls. We found this in a buried ruin, she whispered. We always thought it was alien. Daniel smiled faintly. It was never alien. It was forgotten. Just waiting to be heard again. Then came a voice from the Valari side. Not a leader. Child, small, silver-eyed, brave. Will we get to visit Earth one day? Daniel knelt before her. You will walk its forests. You will hear its music, and Earth will learn your sky songs too. Later, Daniel and Arvale stood alone on the high cliff where it had all begun. The stars above were full of light. He turned to her, quiet. I didn't plan this. I didn't want to carry a legacy. She smiled, placing her hand over his. You didn't carry it. You spoke it, and the stars finally answered. They stood in silence. And then, slowly, the beacon pulsed again. But this time, the light formed a bridge in the sky, a glowing path between worlds. Earth, Valerie, linked. Ships would come. Books would be rewritten, maps redrawn, histories healed. But none of it began with weapons, or armies, or orders. It began with a voice, a single man who spoke the dead language of ancestors, and reminded 2 worlds what it meant to belong. Final scene. Daniel pressed his palm to the beacon one last time. His voice echoed softly across space. Not in power, not in command, but in hope. To every world that has forgotten its roots and we remember, and we are ready to begin again.